Hi guys, I hope you're well. In this video, we're going to be talking about orthotics, when to phase them out, and some information that will help you decide when to use them and when to start using them less as you go through the process of improving how your foot moves and how your whole body moves. We're going to be taking a look at an example of a gait analysis. So we're going to be analyzing the pattern in which a particular person walks with orthotics and without orthotics. But before we get into that, there's a couple of things that I want to cover just so that you understand the context for the information here. This would be useful for people who do currently use orthotics, whether they work well or not. So my view on orthotics, and keep in mind this is my opinion, is that they're generally useful for some people, and the main aim is to not have pain, right? The main aim is not to improve biomechanics and to improve gait. If they work, great. I've got a good hiking buddy who uses them and they work for him. And as soon as he's not using them, he has all sorts of issues. So in his case, they're working, keep using them, absolutely no problem. He's also a really busy guy and probably doesn't have the time or the intention to really do the high flow method, at least not yet. So I'm happy for him to just keep using them. That's Benji. You've probably seen him in some of my videos. So they can reduce pain, and if they work, amazing. Keep using them. The problem is a lot of the time they don't. So my view personally is that they just delay the inevitable. You kind of kick the can down the road. An important thing to consider is that there's going to be other kinetic consequences, meaning how the rest of the body moves, how the rest of the bones and the skeleton organize themselves on top of the foot will change as a result of some elevation underneath the foot in different areas. So they do have other, often unintended consequences, and we'll see some examples of that later. My personal view, if I could click my fingers and bring this into reality, is that orthotics should be dynamic, meaning they should change very regularly. I don't see a world in which keeping the orthotic the same over a long period of time is helpful. They should, in my view, there should always be physical intervention used simultaneously to improve movement of the foot and to phase them out over a long period of time. That would be my personal goal working with someone, and I think that should be the goal of other podiatrists, but for many good reasons, they tend to just make one and say, go, off you go. And often they don't work. So our goal generally in the high foot method is to phase them out because we're using these physical and biomechanical interventions. A couple of things to think about when you're kind of testing and experimenting. And testing and experimenting is the major lesson that I want you to take away from this if you're considering not using them, is what feels better and what feels more natural for you to wear them or to not wear them. Especially if you are doing the high flow method and really dedicating some time to learning how to move your foot, then certainly you will see changes in how you walk and you will feel changes in how you walk as you learn to move your foot better. So you keep kind of testing and asking yourself what feels better, what feels more natural. You can also look at your own gait with a video and look at what looks better and what looks more natural. The other thing to consider is over a short distance, when you're doing a 10-meter gait analysis, maybe it looks and feels a lot better just in that short period of time, but over a longer distance, it might be very, very different. So keep that in mind. And also the terrain is going to be a factor here. When we do gait analysis, we look at on a flat ground, and it's obviously very different when you're out in the hills. And then there's plenty of limitations with gait analysis as well, which we'll talk about in a second, but the main thing is to test and experiment. A couple of quick things that I wanted to cover just so you understand the terminology or you have a brief introduction to it before we get into some actual analysis. There's a simple way of looking at things, which is early stance, mid stance, and late stance. So the easiest way to think about this is early stance, heel strike. Mid stance is when your foot is flat on the ground. Late stance is when just your back toes are on the ground. So early, mid, and late. Simple way of thinking about it. We use that, of course, but we use a deeper level, which is Gary Ward's flow motion model. So you might hear me say these words like strike, suspension, transition, shift, and propulsion. This is the path of your center of mass, the weight of your body passing through each foot as you step. So strike is pretty obvious, that's heel strike. Suspension is when your center of mass is coming around into the bones of the midfoot, or shifting from the talus and the calcaneus, the heel bones, into the midfoot, into this transition phase. The next phase is shift, where it's like shifting through the metatarsals in the direction of the big toe and the second toe, and propulsion is where that's your toe off late stance pushing through the foot. So that's from Gary Ward, Anatomy in Motion. That's how I've been kind of educated to study gait, and there's like many other ways. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to have a look at a particular individual, Margot, who's I think maybe 4 weeks into doing our work. She had some knee pain underneath the patella. She had some occasional knee pain in squats. She's had ankle sprains in the past. She's had a little bit of plantar fasciitis, and she has knee pain running. So they're the main things that we're kind of trying to avoid. She's also a former physio, so she's going to understand this at a slightly deeper level than most people, I would imagine. So let's take a look at her gait, but briefly I just want to cover a few things to keep in mind. Gait analysis is not perfect, right? It's not an exact science. We've got a couple of different clips here that are probably in different speeds, like she's walking at different speeds, and also maybe the camera's in different speeds, I don't know. She's also thinking and altering her gait. We can kind of see that, and she's told me that. Her eye and head level changes. A lot of the time she's looking down, she's looking at her feet, which is not ideal, but I thought I'd mention it. And then rather than just looking at the foot and the knee, we're also going to look at briefly at arms, how the arms are swinging, how the hips are moving, how the spine is moving. It's not just about the knee and the foot. Okay, so let's take a look at Margot's gait. So we have two different clips here, one where Margot is wearing her orthotics and another one where she's not wearing her orthotics, stated down below. So I'm just going to go through and do like a quick little bit of analysis and kind of point out some of the things that I can see happening here. And, you know, as always in gait, there's always a lot going on. So I'm not here to say whether either of these are good or bad. They're just observations. So if we look at the wobble through the right knee from shift, strike into transition, she's loading, when she's using the orthotics, more through the lateral border of the foot. So she's heel striking here, and a lot of the weight is going around this direction, and the pinky toe side of the foot. That's shifting the knee laterally out to the side slightly, as far as I'm concerned. We'll take a closer look at that happening again. So we're looking at in particular at the one on the left, screen on the left. Right knee goes through there's a little wobble there. And when she's not wearing the orthotics, that doesn't really happen because she's finding weight into her midfoot. So now we're looking over here on the right. There's not really as much of that wobble through this right knee. Is it relevant? Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of things that are happening here. This knee looks a little bit straighter. So when she's not wearing the orthotics, I think the foot movement is better, but the knee movement is not as good. And actually, when if we look at a comment here from Margot, she said, I still have some struggle putting more weight on the heel on that side. She's talking about the left side. and that results with a wobbly full pronation. So when she's doing the pronation drills, it's still a bit more stuck, and I feel more stability in my pronation. Very interesting to observe. Okay, well, maybe we'll take a look at the left foot as well. But that's what I see happening in the right foot. It's just that little wobble on the left side of the screen there through the knee. Let's take a look at the left foot in early stance. Yeah, we can see that kind of on the left side of the screen. You can see the wobble through the ankle. Yeah, there's some torsion in the left knee there. So to my eye, this looks like she's not really getting her weight through her midfoot on this left foot. It's kind of scooting around as well. And I think that's the result of the orthotics. If you look over here on the left side, do we see something kind of similar? To me, that looks like a healthier pattern through the foot. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. My general feeling so far is that it's probably better without the orthotics. And she has done some work on this already, so there's a lot of other complex things going on here at the hip and at the knee, but we don't need to go and solve all of those yet because we're starting from the foot and working up. We need to improve foot movement first, and then we can worry about how the hip and the knee and everything else is moving later. Generally, I think the gait looks a lot more smooth when she's not wearing them. There's certainly a fair bit of wobbling around through the hips, but generally I think we're heading through the right path, and she seems to agree with that as well. So she's done 2 hikes so far without them. One 10 days ago, around 12 kilometers. This weekend was a shorter one, 7 kilometers. The one 10 days ago, I had some knee pain and some discomfort around the plantar fascia. This weekend, I felt some tiredness around the plantar fascia. So it's within that kind of 10-day period, it seems to have gotten better. So it seems like it's a good decision to not use them. But again, this is all about kind of nuance as well. She's feeling some changes, breathing better, and perhaps importantly, understanding a little bit more about how she moves. We can see that one of the bigger issues on the left-hand side is the direction that the knee goes when she loads onto this left foot. So it hasn't changed that much really from orthotics to no orthotics, but if you have a look at the direction that this left knee goes when she loads into her foot, the femur internally rotates. It goes around and in. So we'll see that a couple more times. Around and in, around and in. And so for me, that is the bigger issue with the knee pain. Maybe not so much the plantar fasciitis, but I think that's probably contributing to a not a nice experience in the knee. Let's have a look at it over here when she's not wearing orthotics and see how it happens. Probably to a lesser degree, actually, I would say, that femoral internal rotation on that. I mean, it's definitely still there, but I think it's slightly less. But I think we're heading in the right direction to be able to solve this. But again, it's going to be like a slow, long-term process of just learning to move better at the foot and the knee, and later on the hip. So a quick summary on this particular case for Margot's benefit. I'd say we're definitely heading in the right direction with learning to pronate the foot. I think a lot of things are going to be improved by opening up what for her is a very high arch stiff foot. So I think we're heading in the right direction. Also, we're heading in the right direction with phasing out the orthotics in this case. So it might be a case of experimenting with using them on some days and then not using them on other days, and tracking how you feel as a result of using them or not using them, and perhaps not using them, continuing to not use them on some longer hikes to see how that goes. I think the knee pain will continue to decrease. I think that plantar fasciitis will continue to decrease, but we're only going to find out if we do a few hikes and see what happens. Generally, here are the bigger lessons that I wanted to get you guys to take away. Testing and experimenting is absolutely the way to go. I think you get the point from what I've spoken about. Number 2 is don't alter your gait consciously. When you're working on the high flow method, those changes are going to happen naturally as a result of better movement in the bones in the foot and in other structures of the body. So don't make the mistake of trying to like straighten out your feet or to strike or push off in a particular way. Just do the work in the sessions, in the drills, and let those changes happen naturally, because they almost certainly will. Number 3, nuance over dogma. I've given my opinion generally on orthotics in this video, but take into account each individual situation is going to be slightly different, and there's no one size fits all approach to any of this stuff. Please don't take this as dogmatic and say orthotics always bad just because in this particular case it happened to be what I think is a lot better without them. There's always nuance involved. Finally, the long-term view that I have and that I want to share with other people who are learning their body and putting time and effort into improving their body is that in the long term, we want to be phasing them out. Finally, I want to leave you with this quote from Zen Buddhism, which is, don't seek the truth, just cease to cherish opinions, which means having strong opinions and holding on to them and being attached to them probably does a lot more harm than good. So looking at things with some nuance individually in each different situation is the way to go. Okay, I hope that helps, or at least you found it informative.